Hello everyone, and welcome to Rank 1, a show where we take your favorite anime series and video games and dissect them piece by piece. What makes a story so compelling? What tools are used to enhance such a story? These are the kind of questions that we are here to answer. I'm your host, Oldie But a Goodie, but you can call me Mike or OBG for short. Now, without further ado, let's begin. We'll be covering episode 1 of Darling in the Franxx, Alone and Lonesome. So, for those of you who don't know what Darling in the Franxx is and want a brief description, what is Darling in the Franxx? The show is about a group of children named parasites who live in a giant mobile fortress called Plantation. Humanity no longer live on the surface, and those children serve as fodder for society as a whole. They fight as male and female pairs in giant mechs called Franxx against immense monsters known as Klaxosaurs. The story focuses on Hiro, a boy who lost the ability to effectively pilot a Franxx. When a mysterious girl known as 02 arrives, his world is turned on its head. For the purposes of our study, we'll go scene by scene. For now, let's focus on the opening sequence. Opening shot of a bird soaring through the sky. We see a girl with demonic features. Something about her isn't human. She wears an anklet with the code 002 inscribed on it. This is our introduction to 02. We get to hear her describe the mythological bird known as the John. It must find a partner, a mate for life, if it wishes to fly, because it only has one wing. She describes it as incomplete and imperfect right after sighing at her own inhuman features. Yet still, she admires it and finds such an existence beautiful, that she sees something admirable in a lifestyle like that. We move from exterior to interior now. The sounds of the elements in nature, the bird calls and harsh winds we just got in that last picture are replaced with dull, droning, mechanical ambience. We see her grown as a teenager now. She expresses the desire to clean herself, to seek the freedom of the outdoors and the ocean. Her focus is outside, but her requests are denied by the adults around her, and she is belittled. She's described as being high maintenance and having no self-control. Truly, her search for freedom and true love has been stalled by the adults. She is caged, in another way of saying that. Next comes our introduction to Hiro. This time we get his perspective on the John bird. It's different, still similar, but a little different. He sees it as a pitiful creature. It must hide and wait with bated breath as if it can only ever dream of taking flight. We see him ignoring messages from a friend. He dislikes being pitied and misunderstood by her. Suddenly a thud. He finds a bird injured and in pain, yet when he reaches out to help the poor thing, it runs from him. The show of sympathy he displays is rejected much in the same way he rejects sympathy. He poses the question of what happens to a bird who can't find its partner, and that he already knows the answer. And the answer is... But, after we can hear him, he's cut off by the airship arriving and 02's line, "Oh, I found one." He is not only cut off by her arrival, but also by her perspective, as she soars high above his cage. Where do I even begin with this opening sequence? There is so much to dig into here. First and foremost, this already gives you everything you need to know about what's going to happen in this show, as well as what the internal and external struggle of our two main protagonists is. From the get-go, when we see 02, we see her as inhuman, as something that isn't human, as a creature of some sort. And that's how the rest of this world sees her. And even how she sees herself, in some cases. So, she's actively searching for that other person who's going to make her complete, make her whole, but possibly give her a sense of that humanity. Maybe even give her a sense of what it is to be recognized as something that is human or like human. Whereas Hiro's struggle is a little bit different in that he's almost given up on the idea of searching for a partner because he's lost his purpose. He's never had freedom from the get-go, and he hasn't been able to make up for that. He's brought someone down as a result of his own inadequacy, and he sees the John, for example, as a pitiful creature, something that, if it can't live on its own, then what's the point of it? What can it do? He's incomplete in the same way that she is. With the major difference being that when we see her in the exterior scene in the very opening, we have a semblance or an idea that she's either escaped or that she's searching for something, right? But when we see her move from that exterior as a child to the interior as a teenager, and we see how the adults treat her, and we see how her requests are denied, that freedom is taken from her, we already understand that she is a free bird, that she is a being that needs to be free and needs to be set free, but is chained down by society in the same way that Hiro is chained down by himself. And like, that's just like the peaking point. I mean, the idea that she is this free bird to Hiro is present all throughout this episode, and you even get that from the fact that when she arrives on the airship, the camera just swooshes up to her perspective in the sky. That's what he's seeing. He's seeing that way up there. And the music during his particular monologue is really interesting because it has this underlying soft, mysterious tone to it, but when strings come into play, it's like they're trying to rise above the surface, like there's something underneath his conscience that is trying to get on top. And it's really well done. I mean, just everything from the get-go. This is just a phenomenal opening sequence, but now I'm kind of fanboying too hard, so I'll move on, don't worry. Next comes the introduction of the rest of our cast, Hiro's squad. They're gossiping about 02. She's referred to as the partner killer, and one of the kids, Futoshi, expresses fear and a dislike of being with her. Ikano, our bookworm, is mostly focused on Ichigo, who all the while is distracted by her phone. She's the one pitter-pattering over in the corner. Her immediate focus is Hiro. And the focus isn't broken until Goro arrives. Goro's immediate focus is both her and Hiro. We get both the kids' perspectives on 02 as well as Hiro. Not all of them can truly understand what Hiro is going through right now, and 02, in rumor alone, sounds like a monster to them. Last but not least, the last kid to start speaking is Mitsuru, and I don't really want to point this up because I think it's worth noting. His back is turned, face hidden, the entire time, until he gives a very presentational gesture that makes him sound like he isn't being too heartfelt here. Aside from that, I have nothing else to note here. Just really well done character introductions. Gives you an idea of the relationships between the whole cast. The next scene is mostly exposition. What is worth noting is 02 mocks the adults when she goes to escape. She's referred to as a problem child, her partner resents her, even lets out a little bit of a grunt and a damn at her, and it seems like Dr. Franxx is the only astute one here. I mean, no one else was really paying much attention when she got up and left. Anyways, moving along. Hiro is still searching for that bird from earlier, and right before he meets 02, he hears it call out. This is subtle, but it's a nice way of foreshadowing the following scene, while also suggesting that Hiro hasn't totally given up on a search for a partner. He's just weighed down quite a bit right now. Their meeting is magical, to say the least. I mean, the added sound of the chimes and the cheery refrain in the background, it's a really nice touch, and the humor is honestly kind of funny. Like, I liked it a lot. It's almost as if they are inspecting one another. In the next cut, they have their backs turned. They stop trying to investigate the other, their interest is dwindling a little bit, maybe. Hiro is playing with rock, and after he finishes moping, he tosses it away with a splash. Now, in a way, he's throwing himself away. I mean, Hiro is the pebble. But that's not all the splash represents. That's not the only metaphor here. It's a sudden spark of sound in silence. His lonesomeness, the comments that he makes, lights a fire in 02, and she decides to make a splash, in his life. She pushes him down, takes control, and takes him by force. Besides all the provocative nature of this scene, it gets a bit heated. But when she does this, she submerges him halfway underwater. The camera takes his perspective, and we see a bird flying above them, where 02 should be in the shot. She tastes him, oddly enough, and describes the taste as danger. Apparently, he doesn't know what a kiss is either. The next moment ends with her extending her support to him. But before I get to that, let me just address some of the imagery we're seeing here. So, with the idea of submerging him beneath the water and tasting him and saying he tastes like danger, you already get a sense that she's going to take him down some kind of dangerous path, that she's going to set him down a road that is both unknown to him and also frilled with fright and action. But there's more to it than just that. The whole essence of it being unknown, the idea that something lurking beneath the water's surface, the idea that there's something in the deep, that there's something that you do not know. She is going to show him a section of the world he has not experienced before. That's what you can gather from this scene, more or less. And parts of her are submerged with him. She's joining him in that journey. Also, when you see the bird fly overhead, right? It could mean two things. It could represent the fact that this is their first encounter, this is them beginning to fly together. This interaction is what sparks everything that's going to happen next for the two of them, for their journey together. Another way of looking at it, though, is that since it's from Hiro's perspective, and it's in place of where Zero Two would be above him, you have to think, does that mean this is how he views her? That in this specific moment, he sees her as a free bird, as someone who has freedom he does not quite yet have. And is this how he's going to perceive her from this moment on? Is this his initial perception of her from this day moving forward? Finally, just where they meet, the environment, and one specific line that she drops. "Oh, I thought you were dead," when she first looks at him and sees him and talks to him. It's almost like she's saying he seemed lifeless and dead beforehand, like he had nothing about him that seemed like someone who was really living. And the place where they meet, this pond with this fog roll over it, it gives you this sense of mystery and intrigue, but at the same time you can see dead trees out of the pond, out of the lake, out of the water, as if this is a graveyard, as if they're meeting for the first time in a graveyard. They're two lost souls finally converging and finding warmth, finding a light in themselves that wasn't quite there from that beginning opening sequence, that was missing. Something was missing for both of them, and now they suddenly have it. Anyways, moving on. When she extends her hand to him, she makes a guarantee. In turn, he reaches out to her, but she retracts her hand when the adults arrive. Her offer is cut short. Her partner hides her horns that Hiro otherwise thought were alluring. The adults place her jacket on her, the metaphysical binds and weight she carries. She no longer looks at Hiro. Instead, he looks on after her. When she retracted her hand earlier, he kept reaching for it. They pull him away, scold him, and he finds the bird from earlier. It's dead. His fear and philosophy come to fruition, and he's back to giving up again. I mean, I think I ironed out just about everything. There's so many dualities in this scene. This is like the second most important scene in this entire episode. I firmly believe in that. Now, we're only halfway through the episode, too, but don't worry, I'll try to steady along and make this next section faster. The gates open up on adult society. The kids may only peer inside its world as the adults observe them from high above. I mean, they're outside on the platform. They don't get to walk right into the gates. The gates open up for them. It's like a window for them that they're getting to peer through. And the narration from Hiro serves to counter the speech from Papa, the semi-religious figure in front of them giving that speech. Papa praises them, preaching glory and honor. I mean, he has a few really kind of foreboding lines in there if you listen closely. But in reality, the kids have no value otherwise. They would be tossed aside if they couldn't perform their duty. This is like their job for them. They're being praised for what otherwise they kind of have to do. They would have no purpose if they could not pilot a Franxx, as Hiro states. This is also his personal quandary. But here's something interesting. The next scene, we find out that Hiro has permission to stay. But he is convinced he must go. Otherwise, his life is meaningless. Naomi is introduced, his partner, and we see the weight of the burden Hiro carries. Not only has he lost his purpose, but he's brought someone else down as a result. Except, in the next scene, Naomi isn't happy with him. She's criticizing him, calling him out as a coward. He's also abandoning a great opportunity no one else would receive. The kids only ever have code names. They're not treated highly well. And the fact that he's being given, this opportunity to stay and to have that free will, and that he's just shirking it away, it's almost insulting to her. She knows he's giving up and that he won't face himself or even really face her. There is an immense gap between them in that screenshot. I mean, there's a vast, empty ambience that fills the air, and the camera captures the magnitude of this distance really well. She forces him to stay and leave her behind by throwing her own belongings, or, another way of looking at it, her life away and at him. It's almost as if she's saying, you don't get the option to come with me. You don't get the option to run away. You have to stay and face this yourself. You have to, for me. I mean, she tries to smile for him one last time to relieve him of this burden and probably to cheer the poor girl up herself, wishing he finds a partner, giving him that final wish, and the gates literally close on her. The sound of her shuttle departing sounds like a flat line, and her chapter ends. The next cut is to 02 after Naomi's last line, which is appropriate. One other thing I'd like to point out about this particular scene is how there's an adult standing behind them the entire time. I mean, this sounds like a very intimate conversation, something that should happen behind closed doors, but we're outside, and there's someone watching them, not creeping over them, but almost like this weight is over them. Like they can't really be entirely true, and they're still struggling to break out and be honest with one another. I mean, it's a powerful scene for this first episode, no lie. After this, we then finally move into the action. I mean, besides the fact that all this just looks fucking awesome, the immensity of this threat, when the Klaxosaur destroys her shuttle, when it crashes into the platform that Hero on. I mean, this thing looks huge. It outsizes Hero's tiny figure by an incredible threshold. 02's mech is introduced. We even get some comments from APE, find out that they're holograms. They're not really there. They're not actually there supporting the kids, which is another note. But they call her, one of them says, it's hard to tell who is the real monster here. That she devoured her partner, that she ate him, as if to sustain herself, in a sense. And it's a little cruel, but maybe understandable. We need to turn our attention to the next moment, being 02's mech crashing into the plantation. We see the effect that she has on her partners, and we see her and Hero meet yet again for a second time. Hero doesn't know any better. He doesn't know what kind of effect she has on her partners, but he insists on helping her. She warns him, but he insists, saying otherwise, he might as well be dead. This scene is the tumultuous culmination of Hero overcoming his burden thanks to not only Naomi's words from earlier, but 02's actions in the episode. 02 sees him as he truly is and reaches out with that hand yet again to offer him a chance and lets him ride with her willingly. It's a powerful moment. Finally, to wrap up this whole episode, the ideas of partnership, both the difficulty of meeting someone and struggling through the chains that society places on you, are so nicely wrapped up in this first episode. We see a callback to the John. I mean, with 02 carrying Hero out of the mech. Except at the same time, we are left with a cliffhanger. They aren't truly supporting each other quite yet. Hero is injured. He's taking on the full brunt of what it means to pilot with her, so he's not necessarily safe here. And in a sense, she might be using him. But at the same time, he's using her so that he has a chance to fly. He is relying entirely on her to be able to have this opportunity. So this is only just the beginning. And all of the hurdles that are in the way, from adult society putting the constraints on them, to the individual perspective, what the kids are going to think of 02, what the adults already think of 02, and what they have to put up with each other, that's all going to be in the way. And that's what this show is about. Overcoming those hurdles. And I gotta say, I love this episode from start to finish. That's everything from me, though. Oldie Buddy Goody signing out. If you liked the material that you saw today, if you want to see more of this kind of stuff in the future, the point of this show for me really is to take series that, either you guys love or that I love and build on them. Like, see what it is that makes so many powerful moments in both anime and both in video games and other forms of storytelling as monumental as they are, to bring all of that to light as best as I can. And I know I'm not going to be perfect. There are probably plenty of things that I missed here. I mean, I didn't really focus too much on, say, individual character actions from secondary characters. But that was because there was just so much to go into there. Still, if you want to see more of this, please post in the comments your ideas, some of your observations, some of the things you want to see. If you have a show that you would like me to cover in the following future, put it down there. I'll check it out. At the very least, I'll give it a shot. But there's no guarantees I'll always be able to make a video about every series. There are just some things that I won't like that you might like more, and that's fine. But anyways, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you want more content, subscribe. If you want notifications, hit that bell button. And if anything else, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Alright, see you guys next time. Bye-bye.